Everybody has to worry about overcriminalization. People think, well, I'll stay on the straight and narrow, I'll follow the rules, and I'll be fine. The problem is nobody knows what the rules are. There is such a proliferation of federal criminal laws. There are many out there that you wouldn't even know. There's a book out called 3 Felonies a Day, and it's not a joke, really. There's so many things that are criminal, you would have no idea, no way of knowing what they all were. And even if you did know that a certain area of law carried criminal penalties, knowing which particular conduct fell on which side of the line is so difficult that one has to worry.
It is absolutely impossible for any American to know all of those laws. I mean, the most brilliant attorney in America doesn't spend every day just flipping through the U.S. code.
You know, our country is nowhere near what Stalinism was, so I'm making that analogy, but I will tell you that the head of the secret police under Joseph Stalin said, "Bring me the man, I'll find the crime." And that when you have a criminal law that's so broad that covers nearly everything and so open to so many different interpretations, then you end up in a situation where anyone can be indicted for almost anything, and that gives almost unlimited power to prosecutors.
I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I have very often over those years been asked by executives, you know, PD, how, you know, please give me some advice. I don't want to make a mistake. You know, I have a family, I have a career, what should I do? And I've always told them the same thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing and you'll be okay. I sort of feel like maybe that advice now is not entirely complete. Yes, do the right thing, but some prosecutor might still think that you should have done something differently or that you could have done something differently, and you might still be in trouble. It doesn't exactly have the same sort of comforting tone that I would like to give them.
If you're a general counsel of a company and you actually haven't yet been investigated by the government, it's not because your company's doing everything right. It's not because of the millions of dollars you've spent on your compliance program. It's just luck. Because the reality is there are good companies with good corporate citizens who have excellent and well-funded compliance programs who are being investigated by the government and are being held accountable for mistakes, paperwork violations, negligence even, but they're being held criminally liable for these things. And it's really because they ended up on the wrong side of an investigation or even a prosecution, and not because they were really doing anything differently or they were engaging in more wrongful conduct than what's happening in every company. And that's a difficult truth to understand, but it's something that everybody needs to come to grips with so that you are in fact prepared when an investigator comes knocking on your door.
Most business people do not spend a lot of their time focusing on how the law works and how the judicial system or the investigatory system works. So often it comes as quite a shock to understand what that system can require of them and in fact what it can do to them.
Because of the tremendous amount of overcriminalization that we have in the law today, I would advise business owners to be particularly wary of any regulations that might be passed by the federal government or by state legislatures that pertain to their particular business. It's not enough just to think of things like fraud and other types of conduct that would be criminal, ordinarily be criminal in nature, but to look also to a whole variety of administrative rules that are set out by regulatory agencies, which would entrap the unwary into potential criminal conduct. And that's why it's important, obviously with the help of attorneys, to be aware and to constantly look at new laws that are coming into effect passed by Congress or new regulations passed by regulatory bodies so that the average business person can be aware of what kind of conduct is prohibited, even though it might not seem to be criminal in nature.
There's a lot of what most Americans would regard as perfectly innocent, ordinary business conduct that turns out to be a federal crime these days. Take an industry or a sector like the healthcare industry. There are laws that not only pervasively regulate what drug companies can give to doctors who might prescribe their drugs, but also back up that regulation with criminal sanctions. And something as small as a pair of tickets to a sporting event or a friendly dinner out with a doctor whom a sales representative has come to know over time. Things that in most businesses and most industries wouldn't even raise an eyebrow, in certain industries can be federal felonies. And companies try to cope with this, but it's very, very difficult because the conduct of a tremendous number of people is regulated at a very minute level, and worse, is backed up with criminal sanctions.
I have conversations every week with corporate executives who think, in many cases, that they're immune from criminal laws, that they've made their careers being ethical, that their companies are ethical, that their employees work hard and abide by the laws. And it's been tragic in many cases that over the course of my representation, they wind up seeing that they become the focus of criminal investigations. They find that the criminal laws do affect them, no matter how ethical they are, no matter how ethical their employees are. All it takes is a federal prosecutor with questions or federal agents with questions, and that upends a company, it upends executives' lives where they thought that being ethical and honest was enough. They now find themselves in a world that they're often not prepared for, a world where they have to focus every day on potential criminal consequences as opposed to on just doing their work and being honest.
Most folks think, well, criminals are the bad guys, and we don't have anything to worry about from overcriminalization or from these vague laws, but because the prosecutors aren't going to come after us because we're not bad. But that's a lot of faith to put into prosecutors. And if you're running a business or you have a job at a business that involves discretion, and the business arouses the ire of some prosecutor with an agenda, you could be facing criminal law sanctions under vague laws that don't let you know that what you were doing was criminal in the first place.
Well, the best way to protect yourself from federal prosecution is to know every law that's in the book and make sure that you never come close to violating them. But for the most part, real people can't do that. And so I have had conversations with clients where we've talked about how they stay on the right side of the law. And it's really a hard conversation to have because the laws are so complex and they're so vague that you often can't be sure that you're staying on the right side of the law. And staying away from a federal prosecution will take lots and lots of effort in terms of compliance. And maybe that's what the federal prosecutors and the federal government wants. But I think if they really understood the efforts that it takes to comply with the massive set of federal criminal laws that are out there, that people would think twice and say, maybe the system ought to be changed a little bit because it's just too hard and it's really not serving any purpose.